did just want to ask a couple of questions, I guess. In agreement with the comprehensive plan and what you see as the best thing for the community, whenever developers do bring this proposal to us, is there any feedback or suggestions made about incorporating any trees? Or for instance, for every one tree that you tear down, you have to plant 2. Anything along those lines? No. Okay. All right, so that's my first question.
Great question. Yeah.
Thank you. What's that?
He said there's no
No ordinance. Okay. And I just want to clarify for my own sake too, and anybody else in the room, everybody that's on this board right now is appointed, correct, by the Board of Supervisors. That's my understanding, right? Except for you, Mr. Sable, who you were also a school board member.
Correct.
Now, you did mention quite a few things about the school board, or about the school district and taxes and things like that. And I just wanted to point out too that, those businesses and the plant that you listed, all the employees there do pay school taxes. That's one thing that's...
If they live in the community. If they live in the community, they pay real estate property tax. But the Nettle, you talking about the Nettle plant?
Yeah.
They pay wage tax.
Where they live.
Where they live. If they live in our community, they pay it to us.
That's correct.
Okay, but anytime we work outside of our community, we do still pay a tax to that township that we're in. I mean, I always have.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You pay where your wage tax where you live.
I mean, I worked in Upper St. Clair and I paid Upper St. Clair tax.
Yeah.
So.
St. Clair sends you to South Park.
Okay, all right.
But they send it to us.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Now, you mentioned, and I don't know if this was just for clarification, Mr. Sable, just for the room, but you asked at the beginning, you asked Mr. Bonady or somebody if this land in question is actually part of South Park Township or part of Allegheny County Park.
Correct.
But we do understand, and you are aware that it is not part of Allegheny County Park. Okay, because you listed a bunch of numbers. Now, all of Allegheny, all of South Park that is within Allegheny County, all of, the park that people come to know, part of that is in Bethel Park as well.
Correct.
Okay, there we go. So not all 2,000.
No, the 2,000 acres.
It's only 1,400 in South Park.
Okay.
1,400 acres in South Park of Allegheny County, South Park is in South Park Township.
It's still tax exempt. I don't care
It's
how.
only 1,400 acres. You said 2,000.
I'm not going to argue with you over that. I understand what you're saying.
You should know.
It's small. It's small.
Okay. So, okay, and I guess I was wondering too, whenever these sort of situations come up, I know that there's different policies and regulations as far as when you all can get together and discuss a matter. But when you're given the information, just as the rest of us are, that it's Majestic Woods, it's Frank Zoke, it's the engineer is, Wetzel, etc. You have the ability, or you're able to Google things yourself, correct? And come to the meeting with some information about it, right? Okay, so then whenever people say stuff like, we know there's things floating around about Frank, I feel like that is really underrepresenting the true nature of what a very simple, free Google search that's full of public information does show, okay? And I think it's important to mention that there's been lawsuits for him not paying school taxes, okay? There's been lawsuits for him, yes, that's available via Google. There's lawsuits for him and his contractors damaging people's property and then not simply repairing the damage or offering them money, but taking them to court, okay? And then taking the court to court and saying that it was an unfair judgment and it continuing to escalate. Now, I'm not sure what the financial position is of South Park or who we have on retainer. I mean, I do know who we have on retainer, I think. But I'm not sure that, when you know this going into something, that there's a litigious individual, do you appropriate funds in the event that there might be something that goes wrong? That's what I'm curious about, because otherwise, where does that money come from? And is it, at one point or another, does South Park, the township, have to just sort of back out and deal with it, I think, too, an instance of him suing a towing company in Jefferson Hills for a tow truck that turned over, or a big truck, a big construction vehicle turning over in someone's yard, and the gasoline spilling down the hill, and the police arriving on scene with an ambulance and a fire truck, and then it took the towing company 10 hours to get that vehicle out of that man's yard. Okay, so when he got the truck back, the towing company gave him a bill for $10,000, and he said, no way. And the towing company said, well, I got to pay ambulance, I got to pay fire, I got to pay my own bills, and this took 10 hours, etc. And he took him to court, and then continued to go back and challenge the decision of the courts. So I feel like this is somebody that you would not want on your board. You wouldn't want this person on your board. You probably wouldn't want this person on your street. And this isn't an attack on this man. This is the owner of the company, the one who makes all the decisions. Do you know what I'm saying? And so if we know that this is this person's history, and that maybe there's a history of changing contractors after a job has started, or suing the contractor whenever they're negligent, whenever Frank is actually negligent, turning it around on the contractors, turning it around on the engineers, turning it around on his own attorneys, I feel like that's a massive liability. And if you don't care about the buffalo, and if you don't care about the green space, and you don't care about what anybody said, and I know that's not, I'm being hyperbolic, whatever. If you don't care about any of those things, but you do care about money, and you care about the taxes and those interests. And I feel like, no, I'm not.
I do care about the other things, and if you're aiming down at me,
I said if. I said if you do not care, if those other things aren't as high in your priority list as are in line with it, would you let me finish,
I'm
please?
not saying, no, I won't let you stop.
Let her finish. You talk, let her finish. You talk, let her finish.
Okay, I'm just saying, if by chance those issues, if by chance the issues or the concerns of the residents and the environmental issues aren't as important, then considering South Park Township as a business, which you have to, right, when you're making decisions, right. So if you're thinking about the bottom line and the money, then it doesn't seem like a very wise decision, is what I'm trying to say. And I guess I was just wondering along the lines of, people mentioning the new school that's being built in Bethel Park. Now, I don't know in these kinds of decisions either, I'm sure you're not required to, but I didn't know if it was regular practice to maybe correspond with a neighboring district and say, hey, look, we've got this development here that might be coming up. What are your thoughts on it? Or, like the South Hills Council of Government, which people here are a member of, whether there's any discussion about if they can see any sort of ramifications, not to get anyone's permission or approval, but just general feedback. I'm just not sure what kind of.
It's probably a better question for township supervisors.
Okay. Okay.
Because they're elected to represent the residents now.
Okay.
So I think it's a great question.
Okay.
But probably more appropriate for the supervisors.
Okay. And so just like the last couple of things here, so you've said that you are able to research these people. Then is there any kind of, I guess, sort of vetting process as far as this person has a certain history, maybe we want to take a second look, maybe we want to take a deeper look at this issue before any kind of preliminary approvals go forth? Or little circumstances like Wetzel being the engineer on the prior development that was struck down, and whether there's any sort of acknowledgement of that is an important detail, I think. The other thing, sorry.
I'll answer your question. Okay, so you asked like 4 questions in the last 30 seconds.
I'm so sorry. The last thing, should I say my last thing and then sit down, or should I wait? Whatever you want. Well, I just wanted to say too, you had said, Mr. Bonetti, about there have been no problems with the villas. And I think, by the way, saying that there has been no problems with the villas, even though we're very, very lucky, we know that is not very common for this developer. So I feel like in that case, it's a little bit more anecdotal to say that we had gotten lucky. But you had mentioned about There's nothing, there have not been any problems with villas, but then we do know that there's been significant flooding on Snowden Road, correct?
At times, yes.
Okay, so much, yeah, I can't hear what she's saying exactly, but, so we know that that is the case and that there's had to be, remediation involved in that with property owners. So it's not nothing that's been happened, That's it. I think that's all I have. But if you want to respond.
If you have a question, go ahead, I'll try and answer.
Well, which question?
Well, you asked like a bunch, that's what I was.
I know, yeah.
I'll let you go. I didn't interrupt.
Adrian, let me apologize. I have to visit the restroom because I'm on this medication. I apologize for interrupting.
That's no problem. Honestly, I really don't mean to upset anybody, but I do think it's a little bit of a conflict of interest, just because in the one instance with you, Mr. Sable, and again, no disrespect intended, just because you are on the school board, and I feel like, maybe this group of people right here is supposed to look after the best interests of the community members, which of course includes the children. But the school board stuff and the taxes, all of that, that's a separate issue in my mind, just because then you're going to, at one point or another, maybe end up advocating accidentally for one thing over the other. Do you know what I mean? Okay.
If I may, I'm not on the school board.
Right. That's good.
And to be honest, taxes stink, okay? I pay a lot, all right? My taxes have never gone up. That's not even a consideration for me personally while I'm sitting here. I've said this before meetings, and I will say it again. I have two criteria that I look at mostly. One, foremost, is safety. Safety includes neighbors, the development, the road, children, things like that. That is my number one priority, is to keep this township safe. Second of all, also, is what this person coming forward to me, is what they have, is it all legal? It is America, and people do have rights, okay? I look at, is what they're giving to me legal? That's my second thing. But taxes have never been an issue. I've never considered that at a vote, ever. And yes, I do Google things. And yes, I get emails. I'm not on social media. I'm on Twitter, but not anything else that I'm going to see this. I just follow some high school sports on Twitter. But I did Google all this. I received 30 emails, and I know, I do want to say that I thought I was going to know everything that everyone in the audience was going to come forward this evening and speak about, but I got to say, I was blown away by some of the stuff you guys said. I did not realize, and I knew the buffalo was going to be the issue. I was prepared for the buffalo. And that's, you have a righteous cause. But I knew things like that. But some of the other stuff, I'm just blown away by. And I commend all of you. You guys do an excellent job.